A victory tonight for gun rights activists at the Supreme Court as the Supreme Court rules 5-4 that the Second Amendment does apply to the states. Now, the case in question surrounded a strict handgun law in Chicago that essentially banned handguns in the city. The court didn't actually strike down that law, but instead urged a federal appeals court to reconsider its ruling when it upheld the law. Joining us now to talk about the impact of this ruling across the country and here in New York is legal analyst Tom Carr from Tully Rinckey. Tom, thanks for being here today. Now, this ruling didn't just take up gun rights, but it was also looked at state and local rights as well.
Yes, it did. The question here was, does the Second Amendment apply directly to the states? And if so, how does it apply directly to the states? And there was a number of theories that the Supreme Court was considering, but ultimately they held that the Second Amendment does in fact apply to the states. It's kind of a yes-but ruling. It's like, okay, it applies to the states, now what?
Because they didn't rule on individual gun laws themselves like the one in Chicago. In fact, they still open it up saying that there are some gun restrictions that could be allowed under their interpretation.
Absolutely. In fact, Judge Alito, who wrote the decision, specifically said that it limits, but it doesn't completely rule out any restrictions that local governments, be it city, state, county, want to apply to specifically handguns.
Like saying keeping guns out of a felon's hand or someone who has a mental illness.
Right. He went so far as to say, obviously, they're going to be allowed in the future. If you've got a mental illness, if you're a convicted felon, you're not going to be able to get a handgun. But other restrictions, he left those up to the individual states, which means that you're going to have people who don't agree with individual restrictions are going to file suit, and I think we're going to see a lot more lawsuits in the coming years.
Particularly here in New York, how could it affect us here?
Well, it's an interesting situation in New York. Basically, if you get a handgun permit in New York City, it's good throughout the entire state. But if you get a handgun permit outside of New York City, it's good throughout the state except for New York City. So I think because of that weird distinction, the New York City restrictions are probably going to be one of the first ones challenged here in New York.
And we're likely to see those individual cases make their way to the Supreme Court again for interpretation.
I'm sure they will.
All right, Tom, thanks so much for being with us today. Lydia.